Right now, as you're listening to this, I want you to pause for just a moment and notice what's happening inside you. Is your heart beating a little faster than usual? Are your shoulders carrying tension you didn't even realize was there? Maybe your mind is like a browser with too many tabs open, thoughts about work deadlines, family responsibilities, bills that need paying, conversations you need to have, problems you need to solve. It's exhausting, isn't it? This constant hum of anxiety that follows you from the moment you wake up until you finally collapse into bed at night, only to have your mind continue racing when you should be resting. You're not alone in this feeling. Millions of people right now are carrying that same heavy weight in their chest, that same knot in their stomach, that same overwhelming sense that life is moving too fast and demanding too much. We live in a world that seems designed to keep us stressed, notifications constantly pinging, news cycles that never stop, expectations that keep climbing higher, and a pace of life that leaves little room for actual peace. But here's what I want you to know, what I need you to hear in the depths of your weary soul. 2,000 years ago, someone spoke words that have the power to reach into that chaos inside you and bring genuine calm. These weren't just nice religious sayings or philosophical musings. These were words spoken by someone who understood human suffering, who knew what it felt like to carry the weight of the world, who experienced anxiety and stress and the full spectrum of human emotion. Jesus spoke these words not from a place of distant perfection, but from deep compassion for hearts exactly like yours. And here's the remarkable thing, these same words that brought peace to people facing persecution, poverty, loss, and uncertainty are still working today. They're still calming storms. They're still healing hearts. They're still offering rest to souls that feel like they can't take another step. We live in a world that moves at breakneck speed, don't we? Somewhere along the way, stress stopped being an occasional visitor and became our constant companion. It lives in the tension we carry between our shoulder blades after a long day at the computer. It settles into our chest like a weight we can't quite shake off, making even simple breathing feel like work sometimes. It shows up as that endless mental chatter that won't quiet down, the voice that replays yesterday's mistakes, rehearses tomorrow's worries, and never seems satisfied with just being present in this moment. We've given names to things our grandparents never had to think about. Words like burnout, overwhelm, decision fatigue, and anxiety disorders have become part of our everyday vocabulary because they've become part of our everyday experience. We carry smartphones that connect us to the entire world's problems 24 hours a day. We juggle career demands that would have been unimaginable just a generation ago. We're raising children in a world that feels increasingly uncertain while trying to maintain relationships, pay bills, stay healthy, and somehow find meaning in the middle of it all. But here's something beautiful I want you to consider. Long before we had clinical terms for anxiety, long before we understood stress responses and cortisol levels, long before we knew about the nervous system and fight or flight responses, there was someone who understood the human heart with perfect clarity. Jesus walked this earth as fully human, which means he felt every emotion you're feeling right now. He experienced the weight of responsibility, the pressure of expectations, the ache of disappointment, and yes, even anxiety about what was to come. When he spoke to people about peace, rest, and letting go of worry, he wasn't speaking from a place of theoretical knowledge. He was speaking from lived experience. Every word he offered wasn't just religious teaching meant to sound nice in a sermon. These were prescriptions written by the great physician specifically for hearts that hurt, minds that race, and souls that feel stretched too thin. Quote 1, "Come to me, all you who are weary. Let me share with you what might be the most beautiful invitation ever spoken." Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." That's from Matthew 11 verse 28, and I want you to really hear these words, not just with your ears, but with that tired place deep inside your heart that desperately needs what he's offering. Listen to those words again, but this time, let them sink in slowly. Come to me, all you who are weary. Did you catch that word, all? He's not saying come to me if you're a certain type of person, if you've got your life together, if you pray enough, or if you're good enough. He's saying all. That single mom who's been running on 3 hours of sleep, juggling 2 jobs while trying to help her kids with homework and wondering how she's going to make rent this month, he's talking to her. That college student who's drowning in deadlines, surviving on coffee and anxiety, wondering if they're smart enough, strong enough, good enough to make it through another semester, he's talking to them. That person who's been carrying the weight of everyone else's problems while their own heart is breaking in silence, he's talking to them too. And right now, in this very moment, he's talking to you. Whatever burden you're carrying, whatever weight is pressing down on your shoulders, whatever worry is keeping you awake at night, he sees it all, and he's extending this same invitation to you. Notice what he doesn't say. He doesn't say, work harder, or pull yourself together, or figure it out on your own. He doesn't give you a to-do list or tell you to try a different strategy. He simply says, come. It's the gentlest word in the human language, isn't it? Come. It's not a command barked by a drill sergeant. It's not a demand from someone who's frustrated with your weakness. It's an invitation whispered by someone who loves you exactly as you are, exhaustion and all. Quote 2, Peace I leave with you. Imagine for a moment that someone you loved deeply was about to leave you, and they wanted to give you one final gift, something that would remind you of them and help you through the difficult days ahead. What would be the most precious thing they could possibly leave behind? Jesus faced this exact moment with his closest friends, and the gift he chose to give them reveals everything about his heart toward us. Before Jesus left this earth, knowing he was about to face the cross and return to his Father, he gathered his disciples one last time. In those final, tender moments, he didn't give them gold that could be stolen, or silver that could tarnish, or even written instructions that could be lost or forgotten. Instead, he gave them something far more valuable, something that would sustain them through persecution, doubt, loss, and every storm they would face. In John 14 verse 27, he said, Peace I leave with you, my peace I give you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. Listen to the intimacy in those words. This isn't a casual goodbye or a generic blessing. This is a deliberate, intentional gift from someone who knew exactly what his followers would need most in the days to come. But here's what makes this so remarkable: the peace Jesus offers isn't anything like what the world calls peace. The world's version of peace is fragile, conditional, and completely dependent on circumstances. It's the peace you feel when your bank account is full, when your relationships are smooth, when your health is good, when your job is secure. But the moment any of those things shift, that peace evaporates like morning mist. Jesus offers something completely different. His peace is supernatural, it defies logic and circumstances. It's the peace that can exist right in the middle of your storm, not after it passes. It's the peace that doesn't require your problems to be solved first. It's the peace that can fill your heart even when your world is falling apart, because it doesn't depend on what's happening around you, it depends on who's holding you through it all. This is the peace that whispers to your anxious heart, even if everything around me is chaos, even if nothing makes sense, even if I can't see how this will work out, I am held by someone who loves me completely. Quote 3, Do not worry about tomorrow. Let me ask you something, and I want you to be really honest with yourself as you consider this question. How much of your life have you spent living in tomorrow instead of today? How many precious hours have you lost to worry about things that haven't happened yet and may never happen at all? If you could count up all those sleepless nights when your mind was racing through worst-case scenarios, all those moments when you were physically present but mentally rehearsing conversations that might never take place, all those times you've planned and prepared for disasters that never came, how much of your actual life would that add up to? Jesus understood this universal human tendency to borrow trouble from tomorrow, and in Matthew 6 verse 34, he addresses it with both compassion and practical wisdom. He says, Therefore do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Now, when you first hear these words, they might sound almost too simple, maybe even dismissive. But look deeper, and you'll find profound understanding of how our minds work and how we can find freedom from the exhausting cycle of anxiety. Jesus isn't telling you that your concerns don't matter or that you shouldn't plan for the future. He's not suggesting you become irresponsible or careless about tomorrow. What he's doing is offering you liberation from the prison of, what if, that mental jail where we lock ourselves up with scenarios that exist only in our imagination. He's seen you lying awake at 2 a.m., your mind spinning through every possible thing that could go wrong with that upcoming meeting, that medical test, that difficult conversation. He's watched you steal joy from today by worrying about problems that may never materialize. Here's what he's really saying to your anxious heart: today is enough. This moment, right now, is enough. You don't have to carry tomorrow's burdens on top of today's challenges. You don't have to solve next week's problems while you're still living in this week. You don't have to have answers for questions that haven't even been asked yet. Your job isn't to figure out every detail of your future. Your job is to be present, to breathe, to take the next right step, and to trust that the same God who has carried you through every yesterday is already in your tomorrow, preparing the way. Quote 4. In this world you will have trouble. There's something deeply refreshing about someone who tells you the truth, even when it's not what you want to hear. In a world full of false promises and unrealistic expectations, Jesus stands out because he was brutally honest about what life would actually be like. In John 16 verse 33, he said something that might surprise you if you're used to hearing only sugar-coated spiritual platitudes: in this world you will have trouble. But take heart. I have overcome the world. Notice he doesn't say, if you follow me, life will be easy, or believe in me and all your problems will disappear. He doesn't promise you a trouble-free existence or sell you false hope wrapped in pretty religious packaging. Instead, he looks you straight in the eye and says, you will have trouble. That's not a maybe or a possibility, that's a guarantee. And honestly, doesn't that feel like a breath of fresh air? Finally, someone who acknowledges what you already know to be true from your own experience. Life is hard. People disappoint you. Bodies break down. Relationships end. Dreams don't always come true. Financial security can vanish overnight. Mental health struggles are real and painful. Loss is inevitable. Injustice exists. Bad things happen to good people, and sometimes it feels like the whole world is falling apart. Jesus doesn't minimize any of this or tell you it's all in your head. He validates your experience by acknowledging that trouble is woven into the fabric of human existence. But here's where his honesty becomes hope. He doesn't stop with the acknowledgement of trouble. He adds something that changes everything: but take heart. I have overcome the world. This isn't just positive thinking or wishful optimism. This is a declaration of victory from someone who has already walked through the worst that life can throw at anyone and emerged triumphant on the other side. When he says he has overcome the world, he's not speaking theoretically. He faced betrayal, abandonment, injustice, physical torture, and death itself, and he conquered them all. Quote 5. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Have you ever felt invisible? Like you're just one person among billions, struggling with problems that seem too small to matter in the grand scheme of things? Maybe you've looked up at the night sky and felt overwhelmed by how vast the universe is and how tiny you are in comparison. Or perhaps you've walked through a crowded place and wondered if anyone would even notice if you just disappeared. These feelings of insignificance can be some of the most painful experiences of human existence, because we all have this deep need to know that we matter, that we're seen, that our lives have meaning and value. Jesus understood this universal human longing, and when he wanted to illustrate just how much God cares for each of us, he chose the most beautiful, tender example imaginable. In Matthew 10 verses 29 to 31, he said, "Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground outside your Father's care. And even the very hairs of your head are all numbered. So don't be afraid, you are worth more than many sparrows." Think about what sparrows represented in Jesus' time. They were among the cheapest things you could buy in the marketplace, so inexpensive that vendors would sell them 2 for a penny, and often throw in a third one for free because they were considered virtually worthless. These weren't majestic eagles or beautiful peacocks that might catch your eye. These were common, ordinary, seemingly insignificant little birds that most people wouldn't give a second thought to. Yet Jesus says that not even one of these tiny, worthless creatures falls to the ground without God noticing. But then he goes even further with a detail that's almost breathtaking in its intimacy. God knows the exact number of hairs on your head. Think about that for a moment. Your hair count changes constantly, every time you brush it, wash it, run your fingers through it, or even just move your head. Yet God's attention to you is so complete, so detailed, so personal that he's aware of even these microscopic changes in your appearance. If he notices something as small and temporary as the number of hairs on your head, how much more is he aware of the thoughts in your mind, the feelings in your heart, the dreams you carry, and the fears that keep you awake at night? Quote 6, I am with you always. Loneliness might be one of the most painful experiences known to humanity. It's that hollow ache that can strike even when you're surrounded by people, that deep sense of disconnection that makes you feel like you're living behind glass, watching life happen around you but not truly being part of it. Maybe you know the feeling of sitting in a room full of people yet feeling completely alone, or lying in bed at night with your mind racing while the world sleeps around you, and feeling like you're the only person awake in the universe carrying this particular burden. We live in the most connected age in human history, yet studies show we're lonelier than ever before. We have hundreds of online friends but struggle to find someone to call when we're really hurting. We can communicate instantly with people across the globe, yet we often feel like no one truly knows us or understands what we're going through. It's a cruel irony that in our hyper-connected world, genuine connection feels increasingly rare and precious. Into this universal human experience of loneliness, Jesus spoke what might be the most comforting promise he ever made. In Matthew 28 verse 20, as he was preparing to return to his Father, he left his followers with these words, "And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age." Now, I want you to really sit with that word, always, for a moment, because it's one of the most radical promises ever spoken. Always doesn't mean just on Sundays when you're feeling spiritual. It doesn't mean only when you're praying or reading your Bible or doing the things you think good people should do. Always means in your darkest depression when you can barely get out of bed. Always means during your panic attacks when you feel like you can't breathe. Always means in those 3 a.m. moments when grief hits you like a wave and you feel like you're drowning in loss. Always means when you've messed up so badly you're convinced no one could possibly love you anymore. Always means when you're facing that terrifying diagnosis, going through that devastating breakup, or walking through that impossible situation that has no clear answers. Quote 7, Let not your heart be troubled. Picture this scene. Jesus is sitting with his closest friends, and he's about to tell them something that will shake their world. He's going to leave them. These men who have given up everything to follow him, who have seen him perform miracles and heard him teach with authority unlike anyone else, are about to face their worst fear, being left alone without the one person who has made sense of their lives. You can imagine the confusion, the panic, the overwhelming sense of, what do we do now, that must have filled that room. Into this moment of fear and uncertainty, Jesus speaks words that have been comforting troubled hearts for over 2,000 years. In John 14 verse 1, he says, "Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me." Now, at first glance, these might sound like simple words of encouragement, but when you look closer, there's something profound happening here that could change how you handle every anxious moment for the rest of your life. Notice the specific phrasing Jesus uses, "Do not let your hearts be troubled." He's not saying, you will never feel trouble, or, trouble will never come your way. He's acknowledging that troubling circumstances are part of life, but he's telling us we have a choice in how we respond to them. The word, let, implies permission, control, decision. He's saying you don't have to give trouble permission to set up permanent residence in your heart. You can acknowledge its presence without handing it the keys to your peace. This is revolutionary because most of us have been taught to believe that our emotions control us, that when anxiety knocks on the door of our hearts, we have no choice but to let it take over completely. But Jesus is revealing a different way of living. You can feel the fear without being ruled by it. You can acknowledge the uncertainty without being paralyzed by it. You can recognize the problem without letting it become your identity. As we come to the end of our time together, I want you to take a slow, deep breath with me. Just breathe in slowly, and as you exhale, let your shoulders drop and release some of that tension you've been carrying. We've walked through 7 of Jesus's most comforting promises together, and I hope you can feel something shifting inside you. Maybe it's subtle, maybe it's profound, but I believe something has changed in the last few minutes as these ancient words have found their way into the tender places of your heart. Think about the journey we've taken together. We started with Jesus's invitation to come to him with all our weariness, and we've ended with his promise that we don't have to let trouble rule our hearts. Along the way, we've discovered that his peace is different from anything the world offers, that we don't have to carry tomorrow's worries today, that trouble doesn't have the final word in our stories, that we're seen and known in the most intimate detail, and that we're never, ever alone. These aren't just beautiful ideas or religious concepts meant to sound nice in a devotional book. Jesus didn't speak these words to impress people with his theological knowledge or to build a reputation as a wise teacher. He spoke them because he saw hearts that were breaking, minds that were racing with worry, souls that were drowning in stress and fear. He spoke them to heal people just like you, people who lie awake at night wondering how they're going to make it through tomorrow, people who feel overwhelmed by life's demands, people who are carrying burdens that feel too heavy to bear alone. The same Jesus who looked at a raging storm on the Sea of Galilee and spoke the words, "Peace, be still," until the winds died down and the waves became calm, that same Jesus is looking at the storm of anxiety in your soul right now and speaking those same words over your troubled thoughts. The same Jesus who gathered his frightened disciples around him and assured them of his peace when their world was falling apart is gathering you close to his heart right now and offering you that same peace that passes all understanding. His words aren't just ancient history, relegated to dusty pages of an old book. They're present help for this very moment. They're medicine for your anxious heart today. They're comfort for your weary soul right now. You came to this moment carrying stress, worry, fear, and burdens that were weighing you down. But you don't have to leave the same way you came. You can rest now. Rest in his presence that never leaves you. Rest in his promises that never fail. Rest in his love that never ends. If these words brought you peace today, I want you to know that this is just the beginning. There's so much more comfort and hope waiting for you in his presence. Subscribe to this channel for more content that will nourish your soul, and remember, you are loved, you are held, and you are not alone. Until next time, rest in his peace.